My next guest is a military technology writer and author of the book Swarm Troopers: How Small Drones Will Conquer the World. Well, David Hambling joins me now via Skype from London. Good to have you with us, David.
Thanks for inviting me.
So the Russian Defense Ministry says these attacks were carried out by Ukraine. Ukraine hasn't commented. They haven't claimed responsibility. If this was indeed an attack by Ukraine within Russia using long-range drones, what does that signify in terms of Ukraine's focus on developing long-range technology and its impact?
Well, we've been here several times before in terms of there being what looked like Ukrainian drone strikes into Russian-held territory. First one was in April when a fuel storage site got blown up. Then there've been attacks on Russian air bases and naval facilities. But what makes this one different is that this is at much longer range than before. This is something like 400 miles inside Russia. Which makes it look as though Ukraine may very well have developed a long-range drone attack system.
Which is just quite incredible, right? And I understand you've been speaking to some Russian drone experts. What are they telling you about what they believe was used in these attacks?
We don't have any real evidence at this stage, but the Russians are claiming that it was a modified version of a Tu-141 Swift. The Swift is a jet-powered drone which was developed back in the Soviet era. They were manufactured in the 80s, and it was just designed to fly around at high speed at about 600 miles an hour, take photographs and come back. And what they're saying is the Ukrainians have just stuck an explosive warhead on it and sent it on a one-way mission. Now, that's quite plausible because we've seen a couple of other Swifts come down with warheads like that, though we don't actually know whether the Ukrainians or the Russians have been launching them because both sides have them. It may be something rather more sophisticated, though. It may actually be a locally built drone. Now, that would be a lot more significant because it would mean that Ukrainians could potentially build them and launch them in large numbers, much in the same way as the Russians are launching Shahed 136 drones at Ukraine, and that's what's doing a lot of damage to the power grid at the moment.
Right. And so, Russia initially had set out to take Ukraine quite quickly, talking up the capabilities of its own defense forces in comparison to Ukraine. Why then can't Russia stop these types of attacks within its own borders?
Well, there is a meme out there which goes, "What air defense doing?" Which was what one of the Russian commentators asked after the first one of these drone attacks. The Russian air defense seems to be amazingly inept. It's interesting that the Ukrainians, who have exactly the same hardware, they're using the same missiles and same radar, are being very effective at shooting down Russian aircraft. The Russians, for whatever reason, we suspect it may be to do with training, it may be to do with command and control, and it may be because they have a problem with friendly fire, simply aren't performing to the same level. And time after time, we've seen drone attacks go clean through what are supposed to be one of the toughest integrated air defense systems in the world, and it's just not performing at the moment. And I'm sure the Russians are asking themselves very much that question.
Yeah. So big picture for us, David. If these are indeed drones being built in Ukraine to attack Russia, how big of an escalation is this, and how could it potentially shift the way this war goes?
Well, it's interesting the choice of target, if that's what it was. Engels Air Base is home to Russia's strategic long-range bombers. Those are aircraft that are being used to lob cruise missiles at Ukraine from long range. At the very least, they're going to have to be very much more careful about leaving them out on the tarmac in places where they can be seen by satellites and are an easy target. Worst case, the Russians are going to have to move those back out of range. Many hundreds of kilometers further away, which is going to make life more difficult for them. Realistically, though, there are a lot of other targets. There are ammunition dumps, there are fuel dumps, there are air defense sites, there are logistics hubs. Ukraine's going to cause Russia all sorts of problems if they can just hit those things with small drones. And even if these don't carry a big warhead, it's the technique known as bring the detonator. If your target is a pile of explosives or a pile of fuel, or even something like gas storage or an oil refinery, it doesn't need a big warhead. It just needs good targeting, and you can set the whole lot off. that's going to cause the Russians a lot of big headaches.
Yeah, exactly. An interesting turn here. We did see, of course, the Russian President Putin meeting with his Security Council to discuss this. So major concerns within Russia. David Hambling, good to get your perspective and expertise. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.